News at 10 with Nifemi Oguntoye. We start from United Arab Emirates, where President Tinubu's address, which was to a high-level summit focused on climate action and sustainable development in Abu Dhabi. At the meeting, the president pushed for deeper access to green finance for Nigeria, while also seeking new partnerships to support the country's energy transition, infrastructure development, and climate-resilient projects.
Of global leaders, policymakers, and investors in Abu Dhabi, President Bola Tinubu delivered a clear message. Nigeria is ready to lead, partner, and invest in a sustainable future.
Nigeria stands with the global community, moving beyond ambition and towards delivery. The nation views the Nexus approach as an opportunity to align climate action with energy access, economic growth, job creation, and social inclusion.
President Tinubu praised the organizers, including partners from the United Arab Emirates and the ASEAN, for creating a platform that connects finance, technology, energy, and human capital. A connection he described as critical to today's sustainability challenge.
To translate ambition to impact, we are modernizing Nigeria's energy architecture. The Electricity Act of year 2023 now provides for decentralized, inclusive energy delivery. In practical terms, this means sustainable power to rural communities, off-grid health facilities, educational institutions, markets, and the underserved communities.
President Tinubu announced key steps already taken by Nigeria to strengthen climate governance. These include a new national carbon market activation policy and the launch of a national carbon registry to improve emission tracking and transparency.
In year 2025, Nigeria took a major regulatory steps to strengthen our climate governance and sustainability. We adopted the National Carbon Market Activation Policy, NCMAP, and launched the National Carbon Registry to improve our measurement, reporting, and verification, MRV. The system and investors' safeguards.
We believe sustainable shared prosperity is possible, but it requires cooperation, it requires global partnership so that we can retool energy systems, we can encourage and generate more funds to support climate financing.
Today is a great day for Nigeria. It's a great day for the UAE. Nigerian exporters will have over 7,000 product lines, from agricultural products to pharmaceuticals, that will enter the UAE market duty-free. So that's a big one for our non-oil exports under the Renewed Hope agenda. Also, Nigeria will be diversifying and accelerating exports in various sectors. Also, Nigeria will be welcoming investors from the UAE in critical sectors such as infrastructure, financial services.
As the Sustainability Summit continues in Abu Dhabi, Nigeria is positioning itself not just as a participant, but as a partner, ready to collaborate, innovate, and deliver a greener and more inclusive future. For Nigeria, the message from Abu Dhabi is clear. Sustainability is no longer optional. It is the pathway to growth, opportunity, and long-term prosperity. Femi Akonde, TVC News.
Let's bring in Executive Chairman, Environmental Defenders Network, Tima Williams, for more on this story. Mr. Williams, thanks for joining us on the news this hour. President Tinubu says Nigeria will pursue industrial growth without necessarily sacrificing climate action. From an environmental justice standpoint, is this balance realistic under our current development model?
Well, thank you, Femi, for having me, first and foremost, and Happy New Year to all the TVC crew and all the viewers across the world. Now it is a good thing for Mr. President to eloquently, state the pathway. Of course, it is understandable that now it is no longer time for shifting blames. Now it's time for action. But the critical question is, outside of eloquency and outside of intentions stated, what translates on the ground, in terms of balancing, because the central key point of Mr. President's speech is balancing, if I understand it correctly, not neglecting any sector, not leaving any part, anybody not carried along, looking at all the contours of issue of climate, okay, and how we can bring into being resiliency and smart climate activities and actions. Yes, great. And of course, ambitious, highly ambitious in terms of looking at projected climate funds to be expected from 2 billion to up to 30-50 billion US dollars annually. But the critical question is, what does this translate to the people on ground? How are frontline communities being included in the calculations? Okay, we cannot talk about green energy without talking about green environment. And we cannot talk about green environment without talking of sustainable, living standards of people, because all are intertwined. And I will be happy to see Mr. President, look at the issues in Nigeria that has to do with, non policy implementation on issues related to the climate situation in Nigeria. Of course, he talked about policy and governance issues, and we cannot talk about governance issues in the climate sector without talking about, what are the existing rules, regulations, laws in Nigeria that governs the climate space.
Indeed.
Of course, Nigeria is one of, the biggest greenhouse gas emitters in Africa. Now, can you talk about green economy without talking about, how to tackle the emission standards?
I hear you, Mr. Williams. Yeah, very germane questions, critical to the essence of the conversations happening as we speak in Abu Dhabi. You heard Mr. President also highlight new climate governance tools like the carbon market and registry. And like you mentioned, these frameworks beyond how do they really genuinely protect communities beyond merely serving investors and government targets. But quickly, because of our time, Mr. President also spoke about attracting billions in green finance, which you mentioned earlier, and the foreign partnerships. Precisely, how do you think Nigeria can begin to ensure that this climate finance really deliver benefits for vulnerable communities?
Yeah, thank you very much. When we talk of, energy transition, for instance. Okay, and talking of funds, assessing global funding is good, but inward, Nigeria has lots of resources that can generate funds to tackle climate issues internally, okay, before looking out to climate funds. Of course, it is, as I stated earlier, Mr. President has stated the ambition of Nigeria to attract, but from which sources will these funds be attracted and drawn down to Nigeria? And even if these funds comes, how will this translate to carrying Nigerians along? Okay, because just energy transition for us means that no sector should be left behind. Mr. President talked about the Electricity Act. What is the provision in that Electricity Act? Is it to stifle the already impoverished Nigerians through the provisions of that act, or to make life more meaningful and more enjoyable for Nigerians? So we have to interrogate, the policies and statements that are being made. Okay, so it is good to attract investors, to attract investment, but who does it serve?
All right.
That is the critical question.
Big
Who
question.
does it serve?
Big
Does it
question.
serve the elite?
Indeed.
Or does it serve the mass of Nigerian people?
I believe we'll continue to interrogate that in the coming days, especially as we see these government policies unfold. Executive Chairman, Environmental Defenders Network, Chima Williams, that's our time. Thank you.
Thank you, Nifemi, for having me.
Mr. Lahed,